The recent passing of Carrie Fisher, coinciding with the digital recreation of both her and Peter Cushing in Rogue One, to me raises a number of questions regarding the use of deceased actors in film. This practice is not uncommon. It's something that's been happening for decades. Originally with the use of doubles and clever or not so clever editing, but over time the techniques have been refined to a point where it's possible to build a person and a performance from scratch. Maybe not yet flawlessly, but good enough that it's considered passable. With that though, there comes a lot of moral and ethical questions regarding, is this the right thing to do? One of the most noticeable and worst examples of this was from Trail of the Pink Panther in 1982. This wasn't a case where the actor died during filming. Peter Sellers passed away before production began, but things just went ahead anyway. And by the way, this happened 18 months before the movie started. The workaround was to use deleted scenes from a previous film, The Pink Panther Strikes Again, and have a double wear bandages over his face for the rest of it. Now, I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you that the movie did not do well either critically or commercially, with Sellers' wife Lynn Frederick ending up being awarded $1 million in damages, as it was thought that his estate should have the rights to control which outtakes made the cut. All of that is horrible. Nearly as horrible as the Pink Panther reboot from 2006, which I haven't seen, but let's take a look now and judge it based off one out-of-context moment.
Sir, I'll say again, what's in your pocket?
I have in my pocket a couple of dollars.
Sir?
And dollars.
This is horrible. Beyonce, what? Oh god, this is still going. I think though there are scenarios where this is entirely acceptable. That is if a person has completed a substantial chunk of a project. And it would even be to the detriment of many, not just the studio, if a film is forced to be shelved. People's livelihoods are built around the making of a movie. So when you get a tragic on-set accident, like what happened with Brandon Lee in The Crow, it's understandable that everything kicked on. Oliver Reed also passed away during the filming of Gladiator, but they managed to wrap that up. But a more recent example is in Furious 7, where Paul Walker had completed nearly half of the film before being involved in a fatal car crash in late 2013. For numerous reasons, the main one being to honour his memory, according to the studio, it was felt the best course of action was to complete the project with the aid of his brothers and using digital face replacement. Considering they didn't have any digital scans of Walker, it's a pretty solid achievement and ended up being a touching send-off. There has though been talk that the character might return for future installments, with Vin Diesel having lengthy discussions with his brothers, which means there's a good chance that we'll see him again, because they want people to know that he's still out there in the Fast and Furious averse. Now, who am I to say with what Paul Walker's family should do with his likeness? By having him involved, it could provide extra financial stability for his daughter, but there have been examples of using deceased actors in ways that make me feel a bit ugh. Now, I'm mostly talking about celebrities being brought back to, just peddle shit. Steve McQueen has been digitally inserted into a couple of car commercials, and Gene Kelly's head was pasted on top of another person to pop and lock for Volkswagen. Kelly's wife approved of this because he always had an interest in modern dance. But I hate this. Not so much because I'm morally against it, but just because it just looks real bad. But at least with Steve McQueen, he was vaguely linked in some ways to cars. Because, he was in that movie with a car in it. Unlike the time Bruce Lee was used to sell Mars bars, a man who probably never ate a processed food in his entire adult life, and was also once digitally recreated to sell whiskey. And again, he didn't drink. Because I think that a problem could be, even with an actor's family in charge of their likeness, that families can sometimes be total dicks. You know what I'm talking about. Every family's got, that one person. I've got one, you've got one. That man or woman whose life seems to revolve around getting as much money as possible out of a dying grandparent or whatever to the benefit of nobody but themselves. Now, aside from Bruce Lee being forced to peddle junk food and alcohol, there's not really a great example of a person's likeness being abused, but I feel like it's only a matter of time before this does happen. Now, I'm sure Disney will do a respectful job of sending off Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia, or General Organa as she's now known, when episode 8 rolls around. I'm not exactly sure how. Maybe they'll take some footage from 8 and extend her role into 9. Perhaps they'll have her go out in some heroic fashion. Or maybe even with the use of CGI, the character will live on in the universe. That's a big commitment, having her continue to exist somewhere among the Star Warses. Princess Leia isn't the kind of person that can just walk off into the sunset after everything that's happened to her. Or maybe there is a way to do that. I don't know. But let's assume for the sake of argument that it's handled respectfully. What then? Does that mean in 10, 20, 50 years' time we could get a Princess Leia film with an all CGI character, like we saw of her in Rogue One? I mean, Carrie Fisher has even joked herself that she doesn't even own the rights to her own image anymore.
And though amongst your many possessions you have owned my likeness, lo, all these years, so that every time I look in the mirror, I have to send you a check for a couple of bucks.
And this could literally be applied to all actors in multiple franchises. I wouldn't be surprised that in the not too distant future, there's a clause in all contracts that dictates three-dimensional scans can be used of a person in the event of an accident or an actor aging out of a role. And I would not be surprised in the slightest if some performers have already had themselves scanned in the hope that they'll be able to live on in film long after they're gone. And they've been messing around with digital performances and de-aging for years, with, varying degrees of success. And it's going to get to the point where you cannot tell a digital performance from a non-digital one, despite some of them being flat out frightful. Let's quickly take a trip down memory lane, exploring some of the more notable ones from history. This one I kind of liked. It's a nice nod to the first Superman movie. I mean, it's still weird that they brought him back, but on a purely visual level, he looks pretty good because he's kind of obscured, by a crystal. Pointless. Why did they do this? This is a weird one. I don't like it. It's too close. Okay, I kind of give this a pass because it's a digital character in a digital world, and maybe that's why he looks a little bit off. But also, you see him as an actual person, and it just makes me sad. Ugh, real weird. Hate it. Oof. Somehow worse, despite being made after. This one is brutal. But to be fair, this was done on a TV budget the year that she passed away. Still, 0 out of 10. Good lord. No, same with Superman Returns. You have the actor, why have you got a digital performer so close? Makes no sense. Not bad, that's not bad at all. But like with Civil War, you've got the actual actor as a reference point. So it does make it a bit easier. Really solid. An amazing effect wasted in a nothing movie. Ugh, awful. Why did they do this? It looks almost hand-drawn. But I have a question for you. How do you feel about deceased actors being recreated digitally? Is it something that should be left alone? Or maybe it's dependent on what the family thinks? Or maybe even you think it doesn't matter. When you're dead, who cares? I'd love to hear any and all thoughts below. As always, I'll be picking one person from the comments to give away a loot crate to. Here's the winner of last week's box. You can just private message me these details on my channel, and it's all yours. Also, if you could leave a like on this video, that'd be great. But, don't go out of your way, whatever you want to do. Also, just to let you know, I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks off. I've got some videos from my podcast being lined up, and some guest appearances from some other YouTube channels. So there is going to be stuff going on here, but I'm going to be mostly keeping away from all of this, even if we get, the release of a new trailer until mid-January. But I hope you had a great new year. Thanks for all the support in 2016. Be seeing you real soon on the internet. Probably not in real life. Unless you know me in real life, in which case, say hello. I mean, why wouldn't you? It'd be weird if you didn't. Don't just walk past. We're friends, probably. All right, take care.